All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So my plan is to cover two stocks today, maybe a third if I have time, but SOFI and Palantir are my 1-2 for sure. And then I'd like to go over some thoughts on Powell's speech today, as well as the impact to the markets. All right, so I think I'll start with the latter of all that, and really just overall comments. I liked what Powell said today, all right? I did my very, very best to just summarize everything as he was speaking. So you can see it was basically from that 11:30 kickoff right there, right? So feel free to go over it on the Discord. Like I said, I'm not here pretending I'm the smartest one, or I for sure have said so many times I don't understand a lot of economic, micro, macro stuff like that, but overall, the guy said very, very positive things. There was no real fear in anything he said, all right? And I think the easiest place to see how that went was the index itself, right? And again, I'll go over the thoughts shortly, but he starts to speak around 2:30, so somewhere in between there. Again, this is Eastern time, right? Right around him speaking all the way till the end, we maintain a nice little uptrend, right? You can see it on the Nasdaq, you can see it on the S&P 500, and you can see it on the DJ30 right there, right? You can say a little less drastic as I went down the indices, right? But hey, nonetheless, all of them started down here and are basically either here or a little bit higher between the S&P and the Nasdaq as well, right? I think with SOFI, let me go back to the daily, a lot of the conversation happened in our earnings report, all right? I say it all the time. I say it all the time. Earnings are crazy. Look at this, right? There is a lot of beat without a single miss on the actuals. You can see a little bit of a miss on the guidance, and obviously I'll get to that shortly, right? But this is good earnings. Not only is it good earnings, I mentioned Palantir last time I talked about SOFI. SOFI is starting to get on the level of Palantir. That's just good after good after good earnings. You know what I mean? So they are doing well, but to get that gap down doji and then another two dojis behind it, I think it just goes to show you that earnings are crazy and very unpredictable. All right. And then lastly is just Palantir itself. I don't get to talk about this one. And I say I don't get because, I mean, just look at this thing, right? All it does is bounce on the 8 and the 20 and occasionally the 50, 8 and the 20 and occasionally the 50, 8 and the 20, occasionally the 50, right? And that's seemingly like what's setting up right now. You can see we're due for an earnings soon, right? It hasn't come just yet. Ooh, excuse me. But I imagine it will come. And hey, earnings have been good on Palantir for a minute now, so I would expect good things. But again, even with SOFI, you saw the craziness that is with good earnings and bad reaction, right? So I'm excited to talk about all this for sure, but before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So what I actually want to do is take us to the fireplace. I was looking at the Fed results. My name is not Timothy this thing. Let's take us to the fireplace. So I like bringing us to the fireplace because, look, I'm not looking at charts right now. I'm just kind of throwing educated thoughts and opinions on the table, right? That's what we do here. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to agree. This is just thoughts here, right? Powell did really well today, in my opinion. I think everyone was pretty much expecting no rate cut. as the last video I made on Monday, I think we were basically at the 99% no estimate, right? At least on that one single website. But overall consensus, most people were expecting no. We immediately saw the no. What was really good was Powell's, what is it called? Powell's prepared statement, as well as every single, and I mean literally every single answer to all the questions that were thrown at him, everything was positive. And that is a really really big thing. My wife at the end of the speech, when it ended, she asked me, so what does that mean? Does that mean the market's going to magically like be good? Like, what are you expecting now? My answer simply was, I'm not expecting a crazy crash now. I think if Powell said the wrong things, and I'll get to the chart shortly, right? But I think if he said the wrong things, we would have quickly lost the next moving average respectfully below it, where each of the indices were. I know it's the 50 on the Nasdaq, it might be the 50 on the S&P 500, it might even be the 100 on the Dow Jones, right? But I was worried the wrong sentence would shake the market. Instead, like you saw in those opening thoughts, right? Every single one of the big three went up right as he started speaking, and they stayed up through the end. And overall, that's at least a good thing. And to me, now it's, I think, more about the moving averages and a couple more of the technical things that I look at than necessarily what this man could have said and done, right? So I think it's easy to say that there wasn't anything spectacular necessarily. He for sure, as loud as he could, said there's going to be no rate cut on the next call. He basically said things look good. We're not in a hurry to do anything. I don't expect anything immediate. I'm paraphrasing, right? As the months go, the data comes, the tariff stuff comes. I think we'll see more and more. There were really good questions about tariffs. There were really good questions about crypto. There's only one crypto, but at least they threw it in there. There was a really good question about why are mortgage rates going up, even though he was making the federal cuts down. I really don't even understand how that works, but he basically said it wasn't because of their policy, it was because of bank stuff, and again, paraphrasing, right? I think he did as much as he could, and really all he needed to do was make us all and he reiterated it so many times. We're in a good place. We're still shooting for our goal. We still plan to make the cuts that we were planning on. I'm not expecting it to happen anytime soon, right? So I think overall that's a really, really good thing. And yeah, he could have said so many worse things, right? A lot of people threw some hypothetical questions at him, and I think he gave some relatively good answers, basically saying, we'll wait for the data to come. But I think the one thing that he said a couple times, and again, I think it was part of the reason everyone liked what he was saying. Look, when Trump came and first was talking tariffs, there was also a global disaster happening, right? And a lot of it just mixed in such a craziness that that aftermath isn't quite the same thing as today. There's a lot less uncertainty. There's a normal amount of uncertainty is actually a true quote that the guy said. And I agree with that. I don't think the labor market is very good. I know people that are still struggling to get a job, and I know people still feel that they're not like paid as much and that. I mentioned housing rates are still going up. That's not necessarily a good thing, right? But yeah, I agree with him that overall, as uncertain as things feel, hey, they don't feel like that level of COVID crazy that we got through, and etc. Right? So he said the right things. Let me know if you heard things better and more educated than I did. But yeah, in my dumb little head, I think that's at least a decent summary. All right. So I'm gonna jump to the charts real quick. I think we're gonna do the same chapter though. So before I get to SOFI, I want to come to the market. So again, Powell, the rate information starts to come at 2 o'clock. Okay, we all basically got some sort of alert from someone by 2:15, by this candle right here, that said rate cuts were staying flat, nothing was happening. he started speaking around 2:30, 2:30-ish, and I think this immediate candle right there at 2:45, by the time he finished his prepared remarks, I think that speaks a lot to what the market thought of what he said. The prepared statements were short and sweet. My favorite part, just going to the Discord real quick, arrow. So there was something that basically talked about how things were struck out and this and that, and it was brought to the table, right? Someone literally asked this exact same thing, and he answered it well. Oops, wrong thing. There was a lot of really good in the question and answer, which is what I think these candles represent. But the guy's prepared remarks were just short, sweet, and positive, right? You can see that same thing right there on the S&P 500. Big, big, big immediate candle. And then one more time echoed on the Dow Jones. And hey, if you've been watching my videos, I've been talking about how disjointed these three have been. Actually, I only made one video this week, actually. So if you saw Mondays, the three of them were disjointed. Dow Jones went up this week while the other ones actually didn't, right? So it was a little odd. But hey, that 15-minute moment when Powell spoke, I think they all reacted the same way, and that was actually a nice little chunk of symmetry and harmony across these three, right? So look, again, I think at this point, I'm more looking at the moving averages and the technicals than I am anything else, all right? Dow Jones is actually over all five moving averages. I actually talked about it being down here at the 100. No, that was weeks ago, right? It is the NASDAQ that we really need to see recover. Hey, you can actually in a lot of ways say it's recovering already, right? You lose three. You need one more candle. You can't overreact. We don't get the confirmation. We actually get back all three. Again, you can't be too excited and assume. We get a pretty interesting candle today. A lot of interesting downside at some moment, but hey, we at least held 50% candle, right? Get me back over that sorry, what are we talking? The 8 moving average, right? 19,800. It's a perfect whole number right there that I randomly clicked on, right? So I think that's what we'll be looking for on NASDAQ to recover. I think Powell did the best he could. And again, just looking at the technicals, that is a real hard support right there. There are two good moving averages right there that should be hard to lose, you know? And it looks like MACD's positive. It looks like the RSI is trying to recover. I mean, this isn't horrible necessarily, right? We have the Dow Jones looking well. And then again, S&P 500, roughly the exact same comments, right? A lot of downside, a little more lost on the candle than I'd like. I would have loved it to hold at least 50% candle, a little closer up there, right? But just at least get me a little closer to or even at the top of it, right? 6,070 would be a real nice number. Actually, this would be, yeah, 6,072. Exactly. I was looking at 50% of this is what I was looking at. I didn't move my mouse, but yeah, cool. And then again, we said Dow Jones was on top. So I think and you know, the last thing I'll say, and I'm going to say it as we look at the NASDAQ chart, okay? Honestly, deep seek. I'm less focused on deep seek at this point. All right, competitions come and go. Really, holding the moving averages on the indices is what's going to matter. And that's literally what we just talked about this last couple moments, right? I think Powell is far more important than some deep seek random company competition. All right, better companies always come. Another better one is gonna come. There was some Nvidia chip restriction comments. I don't know if I'm gonna go over that on this video or not, but I think more than anything, let's just see what the moving averages do and kind of ignore the rest of the noise now that Powell did his thing. All right, so 1405 is I think where I will chapter this, and let's start talking about SOFI. All right, so hey, really quickly, if you can subscribe, if you can share, oh, it does wonders with these algorithms. All right, so SOFI, listen, I say it so many times, and I don't think there's a more perfect example than this. All right, I showed it in the opening thoughts. I'm going to show it one more time. So we do have one of the mods that runs this earnings headquarter. There was the original post. This is the original one that came, and again, this is obviously not his stuff. He's just posting it, right? But this was the snapshot of the earnings. Everything was green. Everything up was significantly up, I would actually say, year over year as well, right? Um, obviously, this exact day, this 227, sorry, 127, excuse me, that Monday the 27th was the exact day of the DeepSeek tank, right? NASDAQ falls, S&P 500 falls, Dow Jones actually relatively holds, and that goes back up to my disjointment comment from the opening thoughts, right? Now, I realize that when the indices drop like that, you have to expect the little tickers to do the same thing, right? But the reason those dropped was the DeepSeek AI company scare, right? And again, look, I'm just throwing thoughts out, right? But AI has nothing to do with SoFi. SoFi is a bank. SoFi is a financial institution. You know, the DeepSeek company didn't affect the rates and the Powell thoughts and, you know, this and that, right? So I'm a little surprised that the indices were able to recover as well as they did. And I said that again, right? I said that at the beginning. They did recover well. And SoFi drops and doesn't recover, right? Yesterday, we saw everyone at least come to or stay above the 8 moving average, right? When I say everybody, I mean the NASDAQ, it came back up, and I mean the S&P 500, it came back up, right? We were down here, then we went up there. Why didn't SoFi? And why didn't SoFi, especially given how good the earnings was? All right. Maybe it was the guidance. Earnings per share, I often say, are the three most important letters in earnings. And hey, if you're gonna lower your guidance by 2 cents, I could see that being a little concerning. That's basically a 10% reduction, right? I'm just moving the decimal. That's it, and I moved it that way, not that way. Sorry, but you get it. But yeah, maybe it was that. I don't really know how important EBITDA is. I know I don't even really know what it stands for. If you really want to know the truth, I know it's an important accounting thing. But look, end of the day, earnings per share. Maybe it was that. I'm surprised the beat wasn't important enough here. On top of I'm a little surprised that of the reaction, and more than anything, the Tuesday lack of recovery. So with SoFi, look, I think I kind of said the same thing when I said with the Nasdaq. These are two good lines right here. It should be really hard to lose those lines, but I think it's hard to like SoFi until we can get back to at least 17, the open of this candle right there, right? So I'm looking in the box, not where I'm clicking. I'm clicking 1704. That's not bad, right? But yeah, 17 is basically what must be recovered before SoFi is a good. I see my line at 1660. Maybe you can say 1660 is worth it. Maybe you can kind of ride the gap up. I think to me, I'd rather get a little closer to right there. That's basically, I mean, obviously it's the beginning of this candle, and give or take half of that one right there, right? So, excuse me, I need to drink some water. Let me pause this thing. Oh, that's much better. Cool. So again, to me, I think a lot of this chart is about the uncertainty of the earnings. And it's crazy. It was good earnings and we're seeing uncertainty, right? So 17 on the potential upside. Where are you? Where are you? That's a little too low. Where are you? That's our number, 1540. Look, if we lose 1540, I think the next place will be 1450. If we lose 1450, we're coming down to that right there. I think it's a little too early to think that low, but those are basically the lines up and the lines down right there. And then yeah, if we break the 17, obviously I'd be expecting us to continue up in that climb towards 19 and up, right? So cool. I think that's it for SoFi. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's take a look at Palantir real quick. And I think I have only a couple thoughts and comments here. Real quick, Palantir is a beast of a chart, all right? And if Palantir can get back and over and maintain the 8 and the 20, which it looks like it's trying to do pretty hard, oh man, that's a hard thing to stop, okay? I think what's really interesting, if you watched my videos about a year ago, this was one of the first AI stocks I would cover. I feel like Palantir is starting to move away from that AI kind of blanket and more into this next level of military and intelligence, and I think that's an interesting shift because hey, we saw Nvidia drop, we saw all the other smaller AI stocks drop, not this one right here, right? More so, we're now starting to see a good battle, and I'll tell you, it is all about getting over this candle right here. This Friday the 20th, the December the 20th, excuse me, this thing closes at 80.55. Give me 80.56. Give me a penny over on the close, and Palantir is going to keep on going up, 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 and fly. All right. We do have a nice little cushion of support, but I don't see a lot of good confirmation. Look, with this, you can say that's two good candles back to back. This one's over, this one confirms. This actually doesn't even get close to the biggest candle to the left. Not this one, and obviously not this one, right? From there, these don't count as a good 1, 2, 3. And again, that's a decent candle for sure. It is. But obviously, I want to get over the biggest candle to the left, right? So there's a lot of things that need to happen. I know we're over the lines and this and that, but hey, this is a good doji. But again, dojis are a little bit on the 50-50 side, right? So I would at least give some respect to a drop of, let's use 7777. I think that's a good number, $77.77 as the low. We're really looking for, and honestly, I'll set an alert. Yeah, that's a good number. Oh, I gotta delete some stuff to set an alert. Okay, but yeah, you break 81. Let's even just use 81, and all-time highs is where this thing will keep going back up. So I think what I really like about this chart is I like that the MACD and the RSI are essentially resetting. Wasn't that long ago we were living in a pretty good and healthy set, like literally living horizontally in that 70-80 for almost an entirety of 2 months, right? So we come back down to a very healthy 25. You can say a little under, but basically that 30 number, all of a sudden we're right back up and there's still some room to go on the RSI, right? Weekly looks nice as well. You can see we're basically just holding the 8 and going. These are the first little bit of concerning moments, we can call it, but hey, instead of it happening here when the potential drop was all the way down there, you know, the 20 is just catching up and catching up and catching up and catching up. And hey, if something bad was going to happen, the fall isn't as hard as it would have been if it happened earlier, right? But again, I'm not even seeing a fall, right? I'm seeing us holding and trying to stay above the 8 moving average on the weekly, and obviously all of them on the daily, right? So Palantir is actually looking like it's trying to set up. And I think more than anything, I'm just a little in awe of how it took itself away from the AI play it used to be, and now more of this. Like I said, to me, there are no deeper pockets in a government contract. This company has different government contracts, right? Like I know they have a US government. I know they do things in Europe and a couple different countries in Europe, right? I don't know if they're in any other country, but again, they are not just the US government and different US government branches. They are in multitudes of government branches. And man, when you start stacking those kind of POs, oof, that's hard to stop. You know what I mean? So one more time, right? I don't see an earnings up here. So I'm assuming it's going to be happening soon, right? This one came at the end of November. We're basically knocking on the door of 3 months ago, right? So I don't know exactly when it is. If you do, throw it in the comments. But yeah, you can see the last earnings gave us a beautiful gap up and continuation. This one's a little bit of an interesting candle right here, but hey, it continued up after nonetheless, right? So Palantir has done some good things with earnings for sure. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, oh, I appreciate you so much.